Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everybody. Today we're diving into a pretty crucial question.
Mm-hmm.
What helps high school students graduate and actually keep on learning?
Yeah.
We talk a lot about the challenges, the things that get in the way, right? But this time I think we have a really great opportunity to flip the script and actually talk about the positive side of things.
Right.
You sent me a fantastic paper titled Factors That Promote High School Graduation, a review of the literature,
Right.
which is a really comprehensive look back over like 25 years
A quarter century
of rigorous research
Right.
that's followed students.
in the U.S. longitudinally.
Yeah, in the U.S. longitudinally. So, we're not just talking about opinions here, but data-backed findings that are really powerful.
Yeah.
And I think our mission today is to really distill the most important, and this is key, the malleable factors that contribute to a young person's success in high school and beyond.
Yeah.
Because, these are the things that we can potentially influence, we can potentially
Exactly.
affect and have an impact on.
Right.
We know that our listeners like to get to the heart of the matter quickly, but also we want to make sure that we're thorough and that we don't
Right.
overwhelm anybody. So we're really looking for those clear, insightful takeaways that won't leave you feeling like you've just, drank from a fire hose. So, I always like to start with the individual.
Okay.
What's going on, with the kid themselves?
Right.
What are some of those internal assets that they bring to the table?
Well, that's where we start. We call these individual level factors or individual assets, right?
Mhm.
And those are kind of those personal resources that a student brings to the experience of education,
Mhm.
right? And we can highlight a couple that are really meaningful from the research.
Yeah, the first one that jumps out is intrinsic motivation. And I think everybody kind of, intuitively understands what that is, right?
Right.
But it's really that inner spark that drives you to do something because you actually enjoy it or find it interesting, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not because you're getting a reward or avoiding a punishment.
Right.
And it turns out that's a really big deal when it comes to staying in school.
Absolutely.
As early as 2007, there was research by Penenbaum, I believe, and colleagues, and they found a clear link between this drive, this intrinsic motivation, and high school graduation.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, that's pretty huge.
And what's really cool about the research in this area is the contrast that it points to.
Yeah.
So in 2012, Abar and colleagues actually looked at why students were motivated to attend school, right?
Yeah.
And they found that students whose primary motivation was extrinsic, so maybe to please others or to get a grade,
Right.
had dropout rates that were more than 50% above the average,
Wow.
simply based on the difference between what fuels their effort, right?
That's a huge difference.
It's big.
And it's not just showing up. It's like you said, it's the fuel.
Right.
It's the why.
Absolutely.
And it seems like that early motivation can really set the stage. Zimmerman and Schmidt-Cohn, I think back in 2003, they found that how motivated a student was in earlier grades could predict later motivation and graduation likelihood,
Yeah?
particularly for those who hadn't experienced any substance use. So there are definitely other factors. But, that was one of the things that they found that I think is really interesting.
Yeah, it really points to, if we zoom out a little bit and kind of think of the implication of this research,
Mm-hmm.
it's about how we can, cultivate that natural curiosity and love of learning from a young age,
Yeah.
that could have really meaningful long-term implications and effects for a student's, whole academic journey.
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about school engagement. And I think a lot of the times when we talk about engagement, we're just talking about,
Yeah.
do they like school or not?
Do they like their classes?
It's a lot more comprehensive than that.
Mm.
It's really, a three-part picture,
Yes.
right?
It is. It is.
You've got the behavioral engagement, the emotional engagement, and the cognitive engagement.
That's right.
So, behaviorally, the kid shows up, they do their homework.
Right.
Emotionally, they feel a sense of belonging, they like being at school.
Right.
And then cognitively, they're actually intellectually curious. They're involved in the learning process.
Right.
And the research shows that when students have high levels across all three of these, it really reduces their risk of dropping out.
Yeah, that's a really consistent finding.
Yeah, there's some research by Stearns and Eccles that really underscores that.
Absolutely.
But if we dig a little deeper, it seems like behavioral engagement might be one of the strongest indicators.
Yeah,
right?
man. Yeah.
Fall and Roberts in 2012 and even earlier research by Rumberger found that, things like regular attendance and completing assignments, might sound kind of obvious.
Right.
But the data supports it.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. It does. And Finn and Rock, they were focused on African American and Hispanic youth, and they found that there were significant differences in attendance rates between those who stayed in school and those who dropped out. So just that one thing.
It's fundamental.
Yeah.
It's fundamental.
Really makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And it's not just about showing up. It's also about being engaged in the, the social and academic aspects of school.
The life of the school, yeah.
Stearns and colleagues, again, they were using NELS .88 data, and they found that this actually made a difference.
Right.
And Riemann Rumberger also found that participation in arts and athletics was linked to staying in school as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And they found some interesting stuff like that. Athletic participation was a stronger predictor for white and Latino students.
Oh, yeah.
While arts engagement was a stronger predictor for white students.
Right. So some kind of nuanced findings there. Yeah, yeah. Nuances by race and ethnicity. And Connell and their team in 1995 found that greater school engagement directly increased the probability of male African-American students staying enrolled. So, again, some interesting...
Different facets.
Yeah, different facets of engagement.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, how that plays out for different groups of students.
And it really kind of raises the question for schools about how they can actively cultivate these different types of engagement, right? It's not just about making sure that the kids show up, but that they feel connected and supported and that they're intellectually stimulated and, really drawn in.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's move on to youth expectations for academic attainment.
Okay.
Now, this is all about what students believe they can achieve in their education.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it turns out that those beliefs carry a lot of weight.
They really do.
There's some research by Eccles and Wigfield, and also by Stein and Husong, that really points out how these expectations can shape how engaged the student is, how they interpret their experiences, how much effort they put in, how persistent they are when things get tough.
Right.
It's almost like it's a blueprint.
It's like a roadmap.
It's a roadmap, yeah. If you see yourself succeeding, then you're more likely to actually take the steps to get there.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the data actually supports that. Owen Reynolds, I think in 2008, did a study focused primarily on Black and low-income students, and they found that simply the expectation of going to college was associated with a twofold increase in the likelihood of finishing high school.
Right. That's really compelling.
Yeah, that's pretty huge.
It is. It is.
It shows that even when you're facing some real obstacles, those aspirations can really carry you forward.
Right.
Rumberger found in his research as well that students who had their sights set on education beyond high school were more likely to stay enrolled. And Driscoll, in 1999, working specifically with Hispanic students, found that the expectation of graduating from college significantly reduced dropout likelihood. So again, all these things are really pointing to the power of,
Of expectations.
Yeah.
Of aspirations.
Yeah.
Of really believing that you can make it.
And it connects to broader concepts.
Yeah.
Like optimism.
Like hope.
Right.
Yeah.
Having that positive outlook on the future.
Right.
There was some work by Sua and colleagues using the NLSY.1997 data that supports this link. And conversely, Stearns and their team found that having negative beliefs about your academic future was associated with a lower likelihood of staying in school.
Yeah. It's kind of the internal narrative.
It's the story you tell yourself, right?
Yeah, the story that we tell ourselves really matters.
It does. It really does. And then finally, in terms of those individual factors, we have locus of control. This might sound a little technical, but, it really boils down to whether a student believes that they have control over their own outcomes. Right. In this case, academic success.
Yeah.
And of course, having an internal locus of control, believing that your efforts actually make a difference in your grades and your future is a big advantage.
Absolutely.
Borman and Overman in 2004 talked about how this belief can actually lead to a better self-image, higher self-esteem, which are obviously really important for staying on track academically.
Absolutely.
And Fall and Roberts, in 2012, they actually found a chain of events. So, feeling in control of your school outcomes, actually positively influenced how engaged they were, both academically and behaviorally, which in turn predicted whether they stayed enrolled or not.
Yeah, yeah.
So again, it's all interconnected.
It is. It is. It's all tied together.
And this seems to be really important for certain students. Rumberger in 1995 found that having a strong belief in your own control in 8th grade predicted a higher likelihood of staying in school through 10th grade.
Yeah.
And Finn and Rock also found that a greater sense of control was actually characteristic of low socioeconomic status minority students who start in school.
Right.
So even in the face of, some challenges, they're taking ownership of their education.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are all really great individual level factors.
Right.
Now, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about family.
Okay.
And, we can't really underestimate the influence of family on a student's education.
All right.
So let's talk specifically about parental involvement and the parent-child connection.
Absolutely.
How do those two things play out in terms of a student's likelihood of graduating from high school?
Well, I think the research pretty consistently points to the importance of parental academic involvement. And this is everything from helping kids with homework at home to attending school events, participating in school committees, really any way that parents can actively engage with their child's education, both at home and at school.
Yeah, and there's a lot of data that really supports this. I mean, a ton of studies have drawn on NELS 0.88 data to really back this up. People like Rumberger, Teachman, Carpenter.
Right.
They found that there's a clear link between this parental involvement in high school graduation and continued enrollment. Yeah. But what's interesting is that the type of involvement that seems to work best may differ.
Right. That's a really good point. It's not all the same, but depends.
Yeah.
Rumberger, in his 1995 analysis of the NELS 0.88 data, found that for white parents, being involved in meetings and organizations at the school was really predictive of their child staying enrolled to continue with their education. However, for African-American families, it was really about setting those expectations and rules around homework and GPA that seemed to be associated with that continued enrollment.
Yeah, and that's really important to remember.
Right.
Because one size doesn't fit all.
Right, right.
And that's one of the reasons why we need to be sensitive to
the context,
to cultural context, to the different ways.
Community context.
Yeah, to community context, to all the different ways that families, operate and function and live.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And it's not just about,
early years.
The early years.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Teachman and colleagues, they found that parental involvement in 10th grade was still a strong predictor of continued enrollment.
Yeah, yeah.
So, even if you have a kid who's, well into their high school career, it's still really important. And then there was this longitudinal study in Minnesota by Jimerson, and he found that parental involvement in 6th grade actually predicted high school completion later on.
Right. So it really is a sustained effort.
Yeah.
That can have those long-term benefits.
Yeah. It's the long game.
Right.
And those findings, they hold true even when you take into account things like family, socioeconomic status, race, and prior academic achievement.
Absolutely.
So parental involvement has an impact,
It's independent.
Independent.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's not just...
It's not just a result of those other things.
Yeah, it's not, it's not just a symptom of something else.
It's a significant factor on its own.
Right. Okay, so we've got that academic involvement.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the parent-child connection now.
Okay.
This is really about the quality of the relationship. How much communication is there?
Yeah.
How much emotional support? Is there that sense of closeness and understanding between parents and their children?
Right, yeah.
And we know that that strong connection is linked to all kinds of good things. You think about better emotional well-being, absolutely increased self-confidence, more cooperative behavior.
Right.
Heckman even said it can contribute to academic success.
Yeah, yeah.
There have been a number of studies using that NELS 0.88 data, again, Fall and Roberts, Teachman.
Right.
All of them have shown that this connection really predicts continued enrollment even after accounting for other factors.
Right. It's powerful. It's powerful.
And it seems to be pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Teachman's 1997 study found that just having more communication between parents and children was a significant predictor of staying in school. Stearns and colleagues found that this connection might even buffer dropout risk for students who have been retained, particularly early on in high school.
Yeah.
So, they're already...
It can be a protective factor.
Yeah, it's a protective factor.
Yeah.
And they've had this, challenge.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And then England, he did a regional study in Minnesota, and he found that emotional support from a parent was positively associated with staying in school over the long term.
Yeah.
So, it really seems like, that emotional foundation at home is really crucial for
it is.
helping kids get through high school.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so in the realm of parental factors, we see that active involvement in the child's educational journey and that strong, supportive parent-child relationship are both really, really important.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to peer relationships now.
Okay.
We all know that our friends and the people that we hang out with can really influence our decisions about staying in school.
Yeah, right.
So what does the research say about that?
Well, I think, peers, and by peers we mean, those same-aged individuals that we, we see on a regular basis and we interact with on a regular basis.
Right.
They can be a source of support.
Yep.
They can really, influence our norms and expectations. And the research, points to the presence of positive academic peer norms as really key.
So what does that mean, academic peer norms?
Well, it's about those shared attitudes and values and behaviors within a group.
Right.
Like of friends.
Of
friends, of classmates.
Yeah.
And, how do they view, the importance of grades? How do they feel about things like studying and going to class? And, as you might imagine, having friends who value academic success, can be a real asset.
A real plus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ryabov, back in 2011, did a study using data from the Ad Health Project.
Right.
And he found that a higher average GPA among a student's, network of friends.
Yeah, their peer network.
Yeah, their peer network.
Right.
Actually significantly predicted an increase in their own likelihood of graduating. And they controlled for a lot of other factors. So that was a really...
Yeah, that's a really robust finding.
Yeah, really robust finding.
Yeah.
And Fallagy did some research using NELS data that also explored the connection between academic peer norms and graduation rates. And it's interesting to see how this plays out for different groups.
Yeah.
Riemann Rumberger, they found that having friends who valued education in 10th grade was modestly but significantly related to continued enrollment for non-Latino white students. And Burrell and colleagues, using the ELS.2002 data, found that close friends with high academic aspirations in sophomore year, increased the likelihood of being enrolled in senior year.
Yeah. So, those close connections really do matter.
They do.
Yeah.
It makes a difference who you hang out with.
Absolutely. And, what's interesting here is that, I think we intuitively understand how important peer relationships are in adolescence, but the research really specifically linking positive academic peer norms to graduation and enrollment, while significant, isn't as extensive as some of the other things that we've talked about.
Right. Yeah.
So it really points to that as a really interesting area.
Yeah, ripe for further research.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, let's shift our focus from the peer group to the school environment.
Okay.
What are some of the things that we see within the school that seem to help students graduate?
Yeah, that's a really, really important area. And the research really consistently points to a couple of key school-related factors. And one of the most strongly and repeatedly supported is the quality of the relationship between the student and the teacher.
Yeah, student-teacher relationships. We've all had that one teacher who really made a difference.
Absolutely.
But, the research actually backs this up.
Yeah, it really does. It really does.
In positive student-teacher relationships, it's not just about being friendly.
Right.
It's about students believing in their teacher's competence.
Right.
Feeling like their teacher cares about them, is invested in their success, They experience respectful interactions, and they feel comfortable approaching the teacher with questions or concerns, even personal ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
And researchers, people like Bareil, Croninger, Lee, they've shown that these positive connections actually encourage learning within the school.
Yeah.
And they predict all kinds of great things: academic achievement, engagement in school, and, what we're talking about today, graduation.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of research out there, longitudinal studies using national surveys that all point to this.
Yeah, the evidence is very consistent.
Yeah. It seems to have a lasting impact as well.
Yeah.
Studies have shown that positive student-teacher relationships in 10th grade can predict enrollment in 12th grade and eventual graduation, as Brooks found in 2010.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that Stearns and colleagues, they found that the way that these relationships play out might be a little bit different for different racial and ethnic groups.
Yeah.
So, again...
Nuances,
yeah. And what's really insightful, I think, is that Croninger and Lee, they found that, while having those supportive relationships is great for all students, it seems like the ability to talk to teachers about problems had a particularly strong effect on continued enrollment for students who are considered higher risk.
Yeah. So different aspects of the relationship can provide different kinds of support depending on what the student needs.
Yeah. And it's not just about those everyday interactions. It's also about more formal mentoring. Mentoring programs that happen within the school. People like Ahrens and Erickson, they've shown that students who participate in those kinds of programs tend to have higher graduation rates. So again, that idea of having a dedicated adult who's looking out for you really seems to make a difference.
Yeah, it really does.
Okay, well, let's move beyond those individual relationships and talk about extracurricular activities.
All right, the ECAs.
The ECAs.
Yeah.
And, this is anything, sports teams, academic clubs, student government, involvement in the arts,
Anything outside of the regular school day, but still connected to the school.
Yeah, stuff that happens outside the normal school day.
Right.
And these are more than just fun activities.
Absolutely, they are.
They actually play a really important role in connecting students with positive peer groups, exposing them to academic norms, and fostering a sense of attachment to the school itself.
Right. And that sense of belonging is really powerful. You know?
Yeah, that's a huge thing.
Absolutely.
And the research, really supports that.
Yeah.
People like Mahoney, McNeil, Rumberger, they've found in their research that there's a connection between participating in these activities and increased rates of staying in school and graduating.
Right.
So it's like it creates that tie to the school, right? And it makes you more invested.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Interestingly, some of the research suggests that this might be even more beneficial for students who maybe are struggling a little bit academically or who are prone to behavioral challenges.
Yeah, so Mahoney's research really points to that.
Yeah. And, the type of activity can also make a difference.
What?
McNeil actually found that athletics and performing arts were linked to higher enrollment rates.
Yeah.
And Brooks's study showed that community service participation was associated with a higher probability of graduation.
Right.
So again,
different flavors.
Yeah.
Different flavors.
All right, well, let's talk about school size. There's been this whole idea that smaller schools might be better because you can foster those closer relationships with staff and students, and you can provide more individualized attention and support. And, some of the recent research looking at newer small school models in cities like New York and Chicago seem to support that. There have been some studies by Bloom, Barrow, Schwartz that have shown that there's an increase in on-time graduation rates in these smaller schools. Some of them even reporting, increases in the high single digits and even higher.